2020 is halfway done. Wow, what a fucking unpredictable year it's been. I mean, seriously. So, now with 2020 halfway done, I'm going to be counting down the most anticipated games, my personal most anticipated games, for the rest of the year. And unlike the rest of 2020, I'm sure you can probably predict a good portion of this list. Just want to say that. The only rule I have here is that they have to have a confirmed date of 2020. I mean, they can change down the line, but by this video, if it has a date of 2020, doesn't even need to be an exact date, just be 2020. It's allowed for the list. Anyways, before we get started, you know what to do. Be sure to like this video, subscribe to your turn notifications, and leave a comment. You'll be a loyal subscriber.
I wanted to give to you, in the last part of your notes here, the significance spiritually of the number 10.
What's the most pulverizing video game of all time? Many people would say Deadly Premonition, as it's definitely up there. On the one hand, you got some pretty tight and smooth controls, but laughable cutscenes on the other hand. I guess that's why it's so pulverizing. People either thought it was a great game or a game so bad it's good. Hell, I even had it on my list of games that are so bad it's good, but the gameplay is pretty good. But for some reason, I feel a certain rush for Deadly Premonition 2, A Blessing in Disguise. Like the first game, in Deadly Premonition 2, you take on the role of Francis York Morgan, who this time will be investigating a murder in a small town in New Orleans. But you will end up intertwining with the story of another FBI agent known as Aaliyah Davis. What is cool is that Francis's story takes place in 2005, while Aaliyah's story takes place in 2019, making it kind of interesting, because it's almost like 15 years apart. The gameplay also looks cool with certain mini-games thrown in there too. Deadly Premonition 2, A Blessing in Disguise seems like a lot of fun, despite how pulverizing it may be. It comes out on Nintendo Switch exclusively, timed exclusive, on July 10th. So pretty soon actually. The Tony Hawk games are, for the most part, dead. The first 3 are fantastic. Never played 4, but seems to be good. Not to mention other games like the Underground games. But then you get to Ride, Shred, and Pro Skater 5. Yeah, it's safe to say Activision dug the grave for the Tony Hawk game franchise, but then pissed on it with Pro Skater 5, which is actually why I'm really happy about Pro Skater 1 and 2 remastered, as Activision doesn't seem to be pissing on that one. Although I'm not sure where 3 is now, but whatever. I guess 2 out of 3 is really good. It don't matter though, because it looks great. Sure, it is just an up-res of the first 2 games, which is why it's not higher. It's not really a brand new game, but it still seems like a trip down memory lane for most people nostalgic for the older Tony Hawk games. Not to mention the soundtrack it seems to be boasting. And did I mention the visuals and just how good the game looks? Tony Hawk 1 and 2 lands in your skate park on September 4th.
So I'm going to be giving this flavor 8.5 out of 10 scoops.
I barely even know what this game is, and I'm sure a lot of people barely know what this game is, but it's Outriders, and I think it looks sick. Outriders seems to be a third-person shooter PvE game with cutscenes thrown in there as well. That's all I really know, to be honest, but it seems cool. Even from the reveal trailer back at E3 2019, where people seem to be indifferent about the game, because it was pretty cryptic, the trailer. I considered putting it on my list of my favorite announcements from that E3, and I still thought it looked really cool. Not to mention, Outriders is being done by People Can Fly, who made games like Gears of War Judgment and Bulletstorm. which are both great games, so I have high hopes for Outriders. Plus, the impressions from that event earlier this year where they gave people a chance to play the game seem to be very positive. And I'm just looking forward to playing Outriders at an unspecified date in the later half of 2020. You Google the game, it says December 2020, so probably around then.
36.
Very close, but that's not it. Let's go to Gary the retard. What number between 2 and 4?
I feel like I'm the only person who's actually excited for the new Avengers game, but yeah, I'm looking forward to this game quite a bit. It's pretty excited when the game was revealed. Didn't quite go through my head that the characters looked like trash, but they look better now. Sure, the game as a service model that they're using here is a bit worrying. I would like to have a finished game at launch rather than a game that will be further polished later down the line, but I'm interested in that story. It seems that Captain America has died, causing the Avengers to lose a certain battle, which has affected them long term, so now the Avengers are all devastated, and not in a good spot. This seems interesting, and I might actually get the game for the story alone, because I love comic books and superheroes. Plus, we got Kamala Khan, or Miss Marvel, who is a very cool and interesting character in the comics, so it's good to see her joining the fray here. Sure, the game might not look like it's done cooking yet, and also, again, games as a service is very worrying, but I'm staying cautiously optimistic about this game as the Avengers assemble on September 4th, the same day as Tony Hawk. Prepare to hear a lot of same days.
Okay, Mrs. Puff, what's my final score?
6.
Okay, call this cheating, but this entry will be multiple games. Obviously, there's no E3 this year, so it seems like I've sort of stretched to bring this list up to 10 games with Deadly Premonition and Tony Hawk remasters, which I'm excited for that, but they're remasters and they don't usually count for a list like this. And that's just because we don't know about as many games as we usually would at this point, because there's no E3. There is a lot we still don't know about what's happening at the end of the year. Games like Watch Dogs Legion, No More Heroes 3, Halo Infinite, Spider-Man Miles Morales, new Pokemon Snap, Bravely Default 2, Elden Ring, Gods and Monsters. I can go on and on and on listing games we still don't know about that will probably come out at the end of the year. And that's simply just because there was no E3 this year. And a bunch of game companies such as Square, Ubisoft, Microsoft, and hopefully Nintendo are planning on dropping their own presentations soon over the summer. There are some games we know nothing about, or close to nothing about, like Gods and Monsters or Elden Ring, that we need to see more of. And other games that just really need a release date, like new Pokemon Snap, Halo Infinite, Spider-Man Miles Morales, or Watch Dogs Legion. That was supposed to come out the beginning of the year. And Suda51 needs to stop teasing us and just give us No More Heroes gameplay. I wouldn't be surprised if that game comes out sooner rather than later, though. I felt bad for originally not including games like these on the list, since they'll probably have more information as well as release dates revealed by the end of the summer. So here they all are in one entry. And who knows, maybe I'll count down the best announcements over the summer in a different list.
Oh, chills. Literal chills.
It was number 5. Number 5 is my brother.
Oh my god, I forgot about
Paper Mario doesn't quite have the best recent track record. The first two games are undeniable classics, and Super Paper Mario I think is criminally underrated, but Sticker Star didn't sit well with fans, and while it seems that the general consensus for Color Splash is alright, the reveal, oh boy, do I remember that reveal and how poorly that was received. But here comes the Origami King, and people seem to be looking forward to it, including me. The villain King Ollie has turned Princess Peach into origami. Hate it when that happens. And of course, Mario must save her. There are many different areas in the game that you go through, and also meet some new allies along the way as well. There are also different mini games and stuff you can do, which are always cool. I always like mini games like that, as long as they don't interrupt the gameplay too much. Nintendo's 2020 plans seem to be silent, but Paper Mario the Origami King seems to be a very fun game as it launches on July 17th.
7, 5.
Now, I made this list a while ago, and I already had Crash Bandicoot 4 at number 4. I say that as if it's like a disclaimer or whatever, because Activision just announced that there will be microtransactions in this game. Fuck! But the title doesn't lie, because it's about time we get another Crash game. I mean, goddamn. It's both a play on how long it's been since a normal mainline Crash game, and the fact that the story is about time, so it's literally about time. There are also gameplay elements as well that have to do with time and everything, which is also really cool. And the bosses look cool as well. There are certain obstacles, really cool stuff. It just seems like classic Crash. Really hope these microtransactions don't kill it though. You get to play as Crash, of course, and Coco, of course, but also Cortex as well. In which Cortex is a character you don't usually get to play as. He's like the villain. It's about damn time we get another Crash Bandicoot game, and it's about time we'll be dropping on October 2nd. If only it didn't have those damn microtransactions. God. Like 2 years ago, if you asked me if I was very confident in an EA Star Wars game, I wouldn't have even answered that question because it's so dumb. But here we are, with Jedi Fallen Order being fantastic and Star Wars Squadrons looking fantastic. Now, unlike Crash 4, it's actually already announced that Star Wars Squadrons won't have any microtransactions in it, which, it's funny how EA is the one who doesn't have any. But if that's true, I mean, you better not be fucking lying to us, EA. And will also be a $40 budget title, so EA knows not to overprice something, as this seems to be mostly multiplayer. This seems to be like X-Wing and TIE Fighter, but in one game, because with those two games, it was like 2 games, and each game you had one side of the story. Here, you get to pick both sides of the story. I mean, one or the other. You'll probably do both. I'll probably play through both. And that's just awesome. Not to mention, the gameplay looks nice, almost like a first-person Star Fox, or, I guess, first-person Rogue Squadron. And the multiplayer actually seems interesting too. I'm excited for Star Wars Squadrons as it lands on October 2nd. Same day as Crash 4. Fuck!
What kind of pencil do we take again?
Number 2. Take a number 2.
Looks like you took a big number.
Okay, while I'm excited for all the other previous 8 games, the top 2 are the 2 games I care 100 times more about. Starting with Ghost of Tsushima. Holy shit, does this game look superb. Fantastic. Out of this world, maybe even. Just look at the game and tell me I'm wrong. Like, look at the visuals. Not to mention the story is already very interesting with the rivalry between the ninjas and the samurais. The combat looks fucking sick too. Everything about the game. With what I just mentioned about the visuals, just how smooth the fucking movement looks. The story, the combat, the fact that Sucker Punch is behind this game, and they're really good. From all that, Ghost of Tsushima seems to be a perfect game for such a console like the PS4 to go out on. And I don't like to say this before a game comes out, But you know what? Ghost of Tsushima is looking like a potential game of the year. If you've seen some of my other lists, you probably know what number 1 is. But before we get there, let's look at some honorable mentions. Look, I'm sure you've guessed it. It's Cyberpunk. Well, I had this on my list of my favorite E3 announcements last year, and then I had it on my list as number 1 for my most anticipated games of the year. Both of them, you know, the game came at number 1. It's been delayed so many times. It was going to be in April this year, then it was going to be in September this year, and then now it's November, and they don't want to release a Fallout 76, so I respect that. But it is also prolonging this horrible time I'm going through, called, I like to call it waiting for Cyberpunk to come out. Yeah, it's very hard. I've spoken about this game so many times. Basically, go look at any list where you think this game can apply to. The entire playlist is in the description, so go ahead. This game will be at least near the top of the list. But just like Ghost of Tsushima, I'm sure this looks like a Game of the Year contender. CD Projekt Red, their last game, they haven't made a game in a while, but their last game was The Witcher 3. And this better be as good as The Witcher 3. And it better be worth being delayed twice in the same year. Anyways, that's why Cyberpunk is my number 1, still my number 1 most anticipated game of 2020. Anyways, that was my list. Now I gotta say, there probably are a lot of games that probably should be on this list. Hell, in a few weeks you're probably watching this list and it's probably like, really? Where's this game or that game? Where are those Mario remasters? Oh, there are even rumors of a Nintendo announcement this week. It might even be out by the time you're watching this video, making this list already outdated. But by the end of the summer, hopefully I'll have another list. Anyways, hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know in the comments below if you agree with me what your most anticipated games for the rest of the year are. And yeah, be sure to like this video, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye.